It's Monday, August 25th, and the weather is about to change in a big way. And it's going to be a lot cooler and a lot calmer over the next couple of weeks. We will see that pretty much everybody except for Texas, the Gulf Coast, and the southeastern coast will be seeing some very nice weather. Pretty much anywhere between the mid 60s to mid 70s feels like temperatures. And of course, that would also exclude the immediate Pacific coast as well. Pretty much everybody else wouldn't be seeing those scorching temperatures, though. It would likely still be in that mid 80s to mid 90s feels like range as well. So definitely not even that bad if you're in these hotter areas, but awesome if you're in these cooler areas. And on the calmer side, we can see that we almost get away with having no risk of severe weather today, the only being a very small blotch here in southern Arizona. And even that is looking extremely conditional, and I'm not even super certain that we'll see severe weather in that today, except there is going to be the small risk of potentially a couple of thunderstorms out here along the Gulf and southeastern coast and even up here in the northeast. But the main area is going to be the Great Basin, parts of the Rockies and Colorado Plateau, and even parts of the upper and southern plains. And then for our small marginal risk down here in southern Arizona, it is purely expected to be wind driven today with that very conditional risk of seeing some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds. Then for our hail, there is actually no risk at all. And there's also no tornado risk at all outlined by the SPC today. So definitely some very calm weather for most of the country. But although we're expecting to get away with seeing pretty much no severe weather today, we are not going to escape a conditional threat of some flash flooding, the main hotspots being in southern Arizona, the upper plains convergence zone, that being in eastern Colorado and eastern New Mexico, and also out here in the southern plains. Those slight risks could see potentially 2 to 4 inches of rain today. Then this rest of this pretty unorganized and oddly shaped marginal risk could see anywhere between 1 to 2 inches of rain today. So a very conditional threat of flash flooding for all of these areas. And then moving on to the tropics, here is Tropical Storm Fernand, and it is actually surprisingly starting to get its act together a bit more. It is now up to a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm, and it actually looks pretty organized right now. And on the National Hurricane Center's outlook, we can see Fernand right out here, pretty much due east of Bermuda at this moment in time, but luckily for us, it is still expected to just be a fish storm moving out to the Atlantic and not harming any land. Now, the main area to watch for the next couple of days is going to be this small disturbance moving into the Caribbean. Now, the good news is that it is actually downtrended pretty significantly since yesterday. We saw it being pretty low, then a big uptrend yesterday, and now it has downtrended again. And that is because the environment out here for development in the Caribbean is actually not super great. And then we can see the Euro ensembles pretty much agreeing with that as well, seeing a lot or pretty much all of the ensembles just sputtering out completely as they go into the Caribbean, and not really expecting much to any development with this, but definitely still stay weather aware on this, as we have seen an uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, and then downtrend again. So just something to keep your eye on for the next couple of days. And back to severe weather and thunderstorms. Here's what the radar could look like in our Great Basin, Colorado Plateau, then Upper Plains Convergence Zone risk area today. Potentially around the early afternoon hours, we're going to start to see a lot of thunderstorms pop up along a high pressure system, and even there's expected to be a bit of a cold front pushing through as well, bringing some of those cooler temperatures that we talked about in the beginning of the video. But immediately we'll notice that in our marginal risk of severe weather, the HRRR is currently not predicting much to even be there at all. So there is a very conditional threat, but still stay weather aware if you're in southern Arizona today. But I do think the area which actually has a larger chance of performing would be out here in the Upper Plains Convergence Zone, specifically eastern Colorado and eastern New Mexico. We could potentially see a few organized storm clusters bringing that threat of some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds, but that's it. Then pretty much everywhere else out in the Great Basin, Colorado Plateau, could also see some thunderstorms as well today associated with that big high pressure system. And other areas to watch would be pretty much anywhere in northern Oklahoma. You're expected to get a lot of rain today in that 2 to 4 inch range. And then in Florida has been getting a lot of rain the past couple of days, and it's not really looking like it's going to stop. There's a bit of a stalled front and trough kind of thing going on here, and that's just bringing a lot of training thunderstorms from west to east across the state, specifically central Florida. So definitely expect some more thunderstorms today. And also potentially up in the northeast, there's that threat of a couple of scattered thunderstorms, not really being severe though, but definitely something to look out for. And these would be likely pretty much anywhere from the early afternoon till nightfall. And these are 500 millibar winds, kind of showing us where that forcing for our storms and also where that organizing shear is going to be. And we can notice a couple of things immediately. We see this pretty big trough digging in across much of the US, and this flow being pretty much overspreading all of the US right now, except for out west, is one of the reasons why we're not really expecting to see much widespread weather at all out here, except for in the Northeast. We do see some potential forcing up here, and then also down here in Florida. Then we also see a short wave pushing through Oklahoma, bringing that big rainmaker. And then we also see that very large ridge out over the Four Corners states, and potentially some organizing and even initiating flow as well out here for a couple of storms. So that's pretty much our reason why we could see a couple of severe storms out here in southern Arizona today. Although it's not super likely, then it would also bring some more organizing shear to our storms in our upper plains convergence zone, and then pretty much everywhere out here in the Great Basin. And then this is the storm environment for that southern Arizona risk area, and there's really not that much to see, except there's just a fairly moist environment for this region specifically, and definitely enough Cape for storms to be possible. We do see above 1,000 Cape, then that precipitable water is also going to be 1.66 inches, so that is why there is that conditional threat of flooding today. And then the other thing is that our organizing shear should be a bit higher here, probably anywhere between 20 to 30 knots. And then another thing we noticed is that there's quite a bit of capping out here. So despite the decent mid-level lapse rates and even low-level lapse rates, that is why there is that very conditional threat of storms, which I'm not super confident we'll even see materialize at all, but still say weather aware out there. So it looks like it's just going to be strictly a 60-mile-an-hour wind threat, even if that. And then moving over to the upper plains in eastern Colorado and New Mexico, this definitely looks quite a bit more favorable for severe weather, although it's still not really that impressive of a sounding by any means. We do see definitely enough moisture for the environment and definitely enough Cape for thunderstorms and severe storms. And then our low-level lapse rates are going to be pretty high. So even though our mid-level lapse rates are going to be low, which is why there isn't really that threat of hail at all today, I definitely do think we could see some 60-mile-an-hour damaging gusts. And also we see quite a bit of organizing shear. And then pretty much all of our other shear is going to be super low. That's why that tornado threat is going to be pretty much zero with these storms. And it looks like it's really going to be that threat for 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds out here in the upper plains. Although it definitely looks more possible than seeing it over in southern Arizona today. It still looks very conditional, but definitely expect some thunderstorms.